Hey YouTube, right here. I wanted to go ahead and talk about a subject, and it has to do with feminism and that sort of thing. Feminism, SJWs, and all that. But it's a trend that has been continuing, and so I'm really not thinking that it's a coincidence. And watch the entire video, because the thing is I mean, everyone's sitting there and, they're looking at all these prominent male feminists that end up going to jail for, sexual assault or woman abuse or, whatever. And then you got, these Democrats going ahead and going to jail for arms dealing and, doing favors for big corporations and, just out and out breaking the law. You got SJWs that are sitting there and saying no one should be able to own a gun, and then are committing violent crimes against other people, where if that person was allowed to have their gun on them, then the person perpetrating the crime would have been able to actually defend themselves, and the crime could have been stopped. But a lot of people are saying that it's projection. I want to go ahead and bring one thing up. We've seen a thing called virtuous bankruptcy. And what that refers to, for people who don't know, is it's when a company will sit there and purposely lose money. Like they know their actions are going to lose themselves. They know their actions are going to lose them customers. They're going to end up going into the red. But they sit there and do those actions anyway because they want to try to score social brownie points. Usually they don't know exactly how much they're going to lose, but they know that at first they're going to lose it. But they're expecting the people that they're pandering to, namely SJWs and feminists and so on and so forth, to start buying their product exclusively at a hiked up rate. Well, here's the problem. No one wants to pay more for an inferior product. So when they jack up those rates and all of a sudden reviews are coming out and people are all like, no, go with this cheaper one from this company. That's what people respond to. These companies don't realize that not as many people in this world are as motivated by ideology as social justice warriors and all that would like you to think. Even the social justice warriors are not like that. They're going to go ahead and not spend a fuck ton of money on a fucking tampon. All right? They're not going to sit there and buy a tampon off you for $5 a fucking pop. They're not going to fucking do it. Not when there's another brand that's just as effective, just as comfortable. I can't imagine that would actually be all that comfortable. Honestly, ladies, feel bad for you there. But anywho, if they're selling some equivalent product for 50 cents a pop, you're not going to see people going out and buying the $5 thing unless they have a lot of expendable income. But guess what? A lot of the mainstream feminists, SJWs, all that, almost all of them come from rich families. So they're able to sit there and say, oh, well, go out and do this. Because to them, it's not a big deal. They don't know what it's like to actually have to budget your money. They're used to mommy and daddy buying everything for them. They're not used to having to pay for things for themselves. They were born with that silver spoon in their mouth. Well, guess what? They are the minority there. So when they say they're a minority, all right. They're not wrong. But when they sit there and say that, all these people with a whole lot of money that don't side with them are evil, that's when I got a problem. I mean, hell, like that motherfucker that went on the hunger strike comes from a rich-ass motherfucking family. Didn't have to work for a damn thing in his life. Just him existing put him on the path to success because of the sheer amount of money that he was born into. And then he has the audacity to sit there and say that he's oppressed. Really? Really, motherfucker? No. You're not being oppressed because mommy and daddy are thinking about cutting you off for you being a worthless pile of shit. That's not oppression. That's called growing the fuck up. Get used to it. Because eventually mommy and daddy are going to be dead and your gravy train's going to be over. You better have something there. Or else you're going to be flipping burgers, bitching, whining, pissing, and moaning, and getting fired in 5 minutes. If you try to pull any of that SJW bullshit at any job. Let's just be completely honest. At least in a company that actually, gives a shit about their business. I mean, hell, even Walmart at that point would tell you to fuck off. And Walmart wants to be good guy Greg constantly, even though they're one of the biggest piece of shit companies out there. You don't hear a whole lot about it. But that's because if any of their employees come out and say something, they're going to find some way to track to that employee. And guess what? They're going to fire them. And we've already seen if a company is big enough, they're immune to the law. So, well, shit. But, honestly, what I think is happening here with these people doing all this shit, yeah, some of it's probably projection, especially with the ones where where shit surfaces from way back before they even got into all this shit comes up. Okay, yeah, at that point it's probably projection. But if they start doing the shit afterward, like if they go, oh yeah, I'm pro-feminism, and then like a year later, all of a sudden they get nailed for rape or whatever, or some level of domestic abuse, I think it's along the same lines as the situation with the companies. Sorry, I got a little bit of a toothache. I ended up biting down on something and it kind of jacked up my tooth. Didn't break it or anything, but it's still in a little bit of shock. But I think they might actually be doing the shit on purpose, trying to prove their point by them going out and being this thing. Like at that point, you can't argue against it because it's all like, no, everyone says you wouldn't do that. You're not that type of person. And you're sitting there and going, yeah, I did it. It's all like, well, why did you do it? Now, you've got people sitting there and bringing up the fact that an alpha very rarely rapes. Because it's very difficult to rape the willing. Well, maybe not on a legal sense. I mean, I've already covered that before. But it's kind of hard to rape a willing person. When they're jumping all over you. It's kind of a hard sale. As far as logic is concerned. However, these betas who end up getting constantly friend-zoned, and I'm not saying I'm an alpha, I'm not saying I'm a beta, in fact, I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I've got my positive qualities, I've got my negative qualities, I'm not exactly a catch. But the thing is you end up in a situation at that point where you've got these people who either through some dysfunction of their own are unpopular in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if they're unpopular with women and they're a guy, or if they're unpopular with men and they're a woman, if they're unpopular with just large swaths of people and they happen to not be like the people that they're unpopular with. The problem is at that point, they're going to try to sit there and blame other people. They're going to try to get all of that negative attention onto someone else just so it's not on them. And in essence, raising their status. You see this a lot with bullies. Like, They're in a situation where, their parents are neglecting them, or their parents are beating them, or whatever. And so they start lashing out at school to make other people feel bad, to make them not feel alone. They screw up other people's lives so that way they're not the only ones in the boat whose lives are screwed up. Even though if they would actually stop and take the time to realize that pretty much everyone's life at this point is screwed up in some way, shape, or form, then they wouldn't feel alone and they wouldn't feel the need to do that shit. But the thing is the mentality of a bully tends to be a little psychopathic. And I'm meaning that in the purest form. They're only really concerned with themselves. Which, now, like I said before, I'm going to school to be a nurse. And there's a thing called the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Well, the thing is social acceptance is actually one of those, but it's a very high base need. And you can't meet that social actualization if the lower portions on the pyramid haven't been met. Food, shelter, security, that sort of thing. If a person feels insecure, then they cannot feel a full sense of social acceptance. That's how this goes. Now, do I 100% agree with that? No, because there's times where I feel completely insecure, yet I still feel completely socially accepted. So, at that point, it kind of falls apart. But the thing is like I said before in another video, nothing is absolute. These sorts of things are based off of what do you generally see? Like, what is the majority consensus on this? Well, the thing is these people aren't being socially accepted, so they definitely can't, reach that self-actualization, which is higher up on the list, which is higher up on that pyramid. So they're stuck there. And they can't move past it. But the thing is the reason why they're not socially accepted is because they are trying to put other people's lower parts of their pyramid out of commission. Perfect example of that. When SJWs are feeling not socially accepted by someone because that person's demolishing their arguments with facts. What do they end up doing? They end up trying to make sure that that person can't be socially accepted by making it so their lower needs can't be met. Do you understand? That means going after someone's job, burning down someone's house, destroying their vehicles, threatening them, so on and so forth. All of that hits those lower parts of the pyramid. They are literally trying to psychologically rip these people down. So it makes sense as far as the pathology is concerned. But the thing is these people have gotten to the point to where they're so desperate for that social acceptance that they're basically willing to self-terminate. They're willing to take themselves out of the equation as long as on their way out, they take out someone else. The saying, I may be going down, but I'm taking you with me. That's what's going on here. But what they don't realize is, at that point, they're a drop in an ocean. They, for some odd reason, think that the entire world is focused on them. The only time the entire world gets focused on someone is when you pull some next level shit, whether it be positive or negative. It's the only time the entire world stands and takes note of you. Well, the thing is the reason why there's so many people paying attention to these SJWs, to these feminists, to Black Lives Matter, to Antifa, the only reason why there's so much attention being thrown their way is because they are actively causing damage. They know that they're actively causing damage. They're proud that they're actively causing damage. That right there is one of the signs of a sociopath. Being proud and even getting your jollies off on causing pain to others. The reason why you're able to do that, the reason why you're able to feel that way, well, guess what? It's because you're not caring about anyone but yourself. You're not taking anyone else into consideration but yourself. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel validated? What makes you feel special? That's all you're concerned with. It's kind of like with siblings, you know? When one sibling does something awesome, the other one, if they cannot do something equivalent, will sit there and actually purposely get themselves in trouble to get attention. Because negative attention is better than being ignored. That's the mentality that ends up developing. Now, where would this have developed at? I wonder. Could it maybe be rooted in a overburdened school system? Maybe the dissolution of the family unit? Now, what caused that? You see, the thing is this rabbit hole keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper. If you want to track these problems to their source, you can't sit there and just stop at one point. You constantly have to ask yourself, what caused this? And until you get to something where it's all like, you know, this causes this because the thing that caused this exists. Once you get to that point, that's when you have to stop, not before. But the thing is you can't sit there and say, oh, well, all these problems exist because of some mythical force, some magical driving force that we can't prove exists or doesn't exist. You can't do that. At that point, you are an ideologue and a religious zealot, to be completely honest. I'm probably going to go ahead and make a video where I actually track this one specific problem back, and you're going to see how complex one problem is. And then maybe people will understand why these people who are so against science, so against actual research, so against meritocracy, so against any semblance of order and anything that can end in different outcomes, that they would not be able to understand it, that they would refuse to even try to understand it, that they would refuse to even ask the questions. So I hope when I put out that video, people who are subscribed to me end up watching. Also, if you end up liking my videos, hit the like button. I honestly want to know. I want feedback. If you dislike the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs down. Let me know. Because I've noticed that, you know, I've been getting a few comments, but, you know, I'm not really getting a whole lot of likes, a whole lot of dislikes. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I mean, at least hit the like or dislike button. I mean, yeah, if you want to leave a comment, by all means, go ahead and do that. But hit the like or the dislike button. It gives me feedback. If you make a comment explaining why you liked something or why you didn't like something, it makes the feedback a little bit more meaningful, but I am not entitled to your time. However, hitting the like or dislike button, come on, it's a couple milliseconds there. So, go ahead, let me know what you think. I'm actually going to go ahead and go into this. It's going to be one hell of a roller coaster ride. It might not even be able to get done in one video. So, let's go ahead, keep it civil. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a nice day.